going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereo Therapy. I'm your host, Lisa. Of course, I've got my girl Justine right there with me, co-hosting this thing. If you're new here, this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. We invite guests on to share their own story of how music has made an impact, as well as their own mental health journeys. Remember, if you want to support our little show, this little engine that could, all you got to do is leave a positive rating or review on any of the apps you are listening to this right now. It would mean so much to us, and we appreciate anyone that's already done so. We love you guys. You can also say hi to us on any of the socials at stereo.therapy, at stereo.therapy, whatever you want to say. Go find us, say hi. We love to connect with you guys. Our guest today on the show was hard rock vocalist Katie McInnes. She is from the band For Those in Question, hailing from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Know you're thinking, another one. Yes, somehow this podcast has made me find this wonderful music scene going on there, and I'm forever thankful for that. Shout out to her husband, Mike, who is from the band Old Neon, who we had on a couple episodes back. He is the reason she is here, and I found Katie, and I'm so happy and thankful for him for that. We talked to Katie about her early days of finding music, riding in the car, which we can all relate to, and those key memories, whether it was Pat Benatar or Joan Jett, to currently Amy Lee and Courtney from Spirit Box being inspiration, and her evolution of loving and being inspired by music. We also touched on Katie's mental health journey, what she uses to cope, as well as just being a woman in music right now, whether it's on a local level, and what we can do as a community to give the respect to women. And I loved this conversation, loved meeting Katie. Katie came in on a day Justine and I both needed a conversation like this. Forever thankful, everything she said. Love this conversation. I know I say that about every conversation, but we truly do. And we love meeting you guys and having these conversations. So I'm just going to shut up, but all the links below will be down. Check out Katie and her band For Those in Question. They got a lot going on, and I'm really excited for that. But without any further ado, let's just get into it. Here is our conversation with Katie McInnes from the rock band For Those in Question. And thanks so much for coming on too. 'Cause I know a lot of it was your husband, like reaching out and
Yeah.
that whole connection too. It's just so funny how after I had his band on, then who was it? Was it Heading North? We just had on.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I think I should just end up going in the Pittsburgh area and just relocating at this point because everybody I found is like it's cool though. I love you
Yeah.
guys are somehow all connected too. So it'll help maybe like boost you guys over there.
I
Yeah.
hope.
Because it looks like so much fun. Like it reminds me of back home where I used to live in Illinois and the music scene and everything and how tight knit it was. And it's like I had no idea liking Old Neon and having them on. I'm like, wow, they know so
Uh-huh.
many people. Like it's a really like I just have to get out there. That's
Yeah. I mean, like the just like local music in general, like out in this area is just huge. Like
Mhm.
the scene is enormous. Um, yeah, and there's definitely something for everyone. So
Yeah, and it's like shout out to Mike for having, reaching out and being like, "Oh, my wife would be wonderful for this." And after I checked out your page and your music, I was like, "Oh, this is so different than we've had." Like we've had a lot of pop punk or even indie rock. We haven't had a band
Mhm.
like yours. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting. So I guess if you go up to someone and say for the first time listening to your music, if you could describe your band for those in question in 3 words, what would those 3 words be like before they're about to listen to a track?
Oh man. I think the first one of the first words that comes to mind is introspective. It's something that's going to like if you're really listening to it, it's something that's going to make you sit for a little while and think about. Our lyrics tell stories, and I think if you give it an opportunity, give yourself some time to like listen to what we're doing, not only lyrically but instrumentally as well. Like it's gonna make you like think and feel things. So I think introspective is definitely a good word. I was gonna say progressive, but I'm gonna say I think alternative fits a little better for where we're at, like in our current iteration of the band. So there's like alternative elements to what we're doing. So not necessarily like super mainstream or following any particular format, but still like keeping true to um the kind of like evolution of rock and metal. So in that way, I would say alternative. And then fun,
Yeah, no,
fun.
for
Like
sure.
if I have to keep a simple word, I would say fun.
Yeah.
Especially how we deliver our music like live. It's just a fun atmosphere. I think that kind of speaks to the scene in and of itself, which is, you know, something I could get into. But yeah, it's something we're trying to promote. That is something we're trying to be, and it's something we're having while we're on stage. So fun.
Absolutely, like, that's like me when I was looking at a couple what I could find on Instagram and, like,
Hmm.
look at what you were tagged in, and it does, it looks like you guys are just having fun up there, and
Yeah.
it's like, that's the most important part. When we were talking to Heading North, they were saying that, like, "We just wanna
Yeah.
have fun." Like, we love what we do, but at the same time, it's all about that, and I some of my favorite bands are the ones that I can tell are having fun. It's like,
Hmm.
they enjoy this, whether they're a local band or they're, like, the biggest band, you know? Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know what a biggest band I'm listening to now, I don't know. But, I mean, just thinking of them and absolutely, like, it makes me wanna be like, "Let me see more of your band," because I don't
Right.
admittedly, I don't know too much, so that's why it's also exciting to have a band like you that is up and coming and that maybe in a year or 2, who knows where you'll be, and we'll be we were so lucky to have her on this podcast and, like, look where they are now. So, like, I really do think that because it's so different what's out there in the scenes right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say like I commented on that earlier. Like there really is something for everyone, like in the
Mhm,
scene. No matter like what you're into, you're gonna be able to find it. And I think that's like just part of like the local music magic of it
mhm.
all.
Oh, absolutely, and then
Ask this from every guest just to hear all the
Mhm.
different responses. What are some of those first memories of falling in love with music?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So my first memories of falling in love with music are all tied around riding in cars.
Mhm,
Um, so like okay, like with my dad, for example, like very specific, like early memories, riding in his truck. My dad had a truck. And we're, you know, listening to like classic rock, like 80s hair metal, all the way up to whatever in the mid 90s was like modern at that time.
Mhm.
So that was like that one experience. Riding in the car with my mom was a whole different experience of like 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like pop, hip hop, and R&B. So that's where like my interest in like that stuff came from. And then the other one I have to mention is like riding with my grandparents. So my mom's parents, we were really close with and lived relatively close to each other, so we saw them a lot. And like something kind of like nostalgic that comes up with that is like listening to like oldie stations in their
Mhm.
really nice Cadillac, right?
yeah.
So like, things from like the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and my grandma, oh my gosh, she loved Elvis,
Mhm, so did
Motown.
mine. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
my grandma was a huge my mom's side was a huge Elvis fan.
that's awesome. Yeah. So like all of those kind of flavors that have like now influenced my music identity, I guess. It just like came from all of those different experiences of like being in the car with them.
Oh, like, I've said it before too, I know Justine, you too, like, I
Mhm.
can think of, like, whether I was Alanis Morissette in the car or, like, any of that classic rock, like, my mom
Yeah.
was big into, like, Meatloaf, REO Speedwagon,
Oh
Tom
yeah.
Petty, all of that music, that was around me, and then, like, once it got to the '90s, the alternative, like, that's how I fell in
Mhm.
love with, like, Gavin Rossdale and Bush because she was like, "Oh, I wanna listen to this," or Smashing
Yeah.
Pumpkins. All of that was in the car, and those key memories are definitely in the car with music, and then me being like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna dive in," or, "I'm gonna go in my parents'
Mm.
record collection and find," like that's where I found, like, the Cranberries, like, I found out so much
Yeah.
music just by, like, what did I hear in the car? What do they have on? And, like, it was
Mhm.
CDs back then
Mhm.
too, so it was easy, like, "Okay, here's my Discman. I'll just take a CD
Mhm.
from their little collection," and honestly, that's what
Mhm.
led our paths, like, that's so cool because everybody has a different story, and that's I can relate 100%. I know,
Mhm.
Justine, you probably too. Like, you've said
Oh,
it too.
I legit stole CDs from my dad a lot and, like, never gave them back.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the other the other thing too, like I remember, I don't know if either of you had this in your household growing up, but the briefcase looking things that like opened up and there were all the cassette tapes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had like several of those, and I remember just deep diving like one day and finding like all of this stuff. And not coincidentally, maybe coincidentally, my first car had a cassette player. So let me
Mhm.
tell you,
So did,
I
yep.
came up rolling to my friend's house and bumping some cassette tapes, and I'm
Yeah.
not even upset that I had that experience.
That's it, and, like, it's
I
people
love
don't
that.
understand too, like, yes, and we're in the era of, like, Apple CarPlay and
Yeah.
all the stuff, but back then it was your CD case or the cassette. My car had a cassette too. Like, I would literally go to, like, Walgreens when they had the singles and the cassettes, and I that's how I found, like, Third Eye Blind, and I literally was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this 99 cents or a dollar, whatever, TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool," like, all that was from Walgreens and getting the cassette and having it in my car because I had an old Toyota Corolla. So it was like,
Yes.
people don't get it and how awesome that was to have those cassette tapes and CDs. Like,
Mhm.
I know we're in the digital era, but that feeling and finding that and discovering that, that's like, it's priceless. Like, I still remember that all the time.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
like, also, like, I feel like what they don't experience like we did with having, like, a hard copy was, like,
Yeah.
looking at the pictures and the albums and having the
Oh,
lyric
the lyric
booklets.
book.
Oh, yeah.
The lyric books. How else did you learn the words to a song?
Exactly.
By playing the album cover to cover and going through each page of each song and learning the lyrics. Like that's how we did it.
Yeah. It's such a lost, like, thing. Like, we were just talking the episode that comes out tomorrow is, like, some of the
Mhm.
albums that are turning 20, and I'm like, I remember getting these records and reading the booklet and sitting on my floor as, like, I don't know, I guess as emo as that sounds, but, like, I remember
Yeah.
sitting there and reading every word, and I need to sit with the CD on a Tuesday when they came out on a Tuesday and
Mm.
just enjoying that. So, it's such a lost art. Like, man,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go back, but I mean, and kinda when we were talking about your music scene a little bit and how there
Mhm.
is something for everybody. For you, what makes it so special? I mean, obviously there's something for everybody, which is a big thing, but other than that, what, like, I guess take us all there that maybe haven't been able to be there yet.
This is gonna sound so like, I don't know, maybe cliche, but like it really does feel like a community. And I'm not just saying that as because, you know, I'm on the band side of it. Even before that, like I got to experience like being on the audience side of that. And it really does just feel like a place that you want to be and that you belong to. And I think regardless if you're in the scene because you're in a band or on the audience side because you love music, like I think everyone has the same like core goals of like trying to foster just like good vibes and good times and um trying to foster like making friends over a common interest. I think another thing too was like there are a lot of unique's a good word, unique atmospheres to find music in Pittsburgh as well. So again, kind of speaking to that notion of there really is something for everyone. um I think one of the things that does make it so special for me, and I know for a lot of people in the scene, again, regardless of what part of it you are, band, audience, spectator, whatever, is that it really like every part of the scene fosters like a safe place for yourself for you to be authentic. And I really think there's a lot of like camaraderie in that.
Yeah, and that's so special too, because that reminds me of my local scene is like that's where half my friends came from. Like, yeah, in high school, but like the
Mm.
majority were the ones like different schools in different areas that like when they were in my small town's little scene. And then when I went to the city, you knew who was going to be there and you had those connections. And those are like my lifelong people, like, or the people that support this podcast the most are those, I guess, I don't want to call them show people, but that show community. So that's like, and again, like just seeing from the standstill of like social media, what's going on
Mhm.
over there where you live. Again, it makes me as a show person want to go see it. I have to go experience it. Like I'm in Jersey, so it's not too far. Maybe I can make my trek, out there. Um, so I can definitely see that. And I think that's just so important.
Are there any specific artists that have made an impact in your life and inspired you as a singer or with just music in general?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So kind of like speaking back to like my first experiences with music and the things I was hearing, I remember really like preferring to ride in the car with my dad. Sorry, mom, I love you. Because like there was just something about rock that was so like captivating for me.
Mhm.
And I think that that's still true in terms of like the genres I listen to the most. So like some of those early influences, like hearing them for the first time. So like my girl Joan Jett, right?
Mhm.
And hearing
Mhm.
like Bad Reputation,
Yep.
um, Pat Benatar, like I think that was more of like something my mom would have been playing. But that and then especially like her style too. Like I remember just like
Mhm.
loving that as a kid. Blondie,
Mm.
right? So
Mhm.
some of those really early like female fronted like influences. And then as I got more into kind of like preteen, early teens, and I definitely still like look up to Amy Lee,
Mhm.
Evanescence.
Yes.
That's where
Yes.
my whole like love of like darkness came from. And I mean that
Mhm.
in a very like kind of like neutral way, like more of like the witchy kind of like macabre, how like
Mhm.
love
Yes.
Halloween kind of thing really started from her. Um, but also there was something like with Evanescence, there was something very like poetic and like theatrical about it, which I also was really into when I was younger. So that uh why am I blanking on her name? This is so bad. Oh, Lacey from Flyleaf.
Yep.
So that was another one. That's really where like I heard like more harsh vocals with a female front before. And I remember just really like falling in love with that and being like, I want to do that. Like that's really freaking cool. Um, so that's really kind of what has inspired like where I'm at today in terms of like what I like to do vocally. And then I have like some of my more modern like influences as well. So like Courtney from Spirit Box.
Mhm.
I am very obsessed with Spirit Box right
Oh,
now. Been
same.
listening to them like on the regular. Um, Maria from In This Moment
Mhm.
would be another one. And then Lizzie Hale too, especially like her style. So she has like the real harsh, like gritty vocals. And she has like a very explosive like stage presence and style as well. So I would say like all of that. I just gave you like the evolution of dance, but in terms of the evolution of my musical influences.
Oh, I love it. You're speaking our
Yes,
language
that's
because every name you've
perfect.
listed, I'm like,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. And
Mhm.
I am obsessed right now with Courtney from
Oh,
Spirit Box. I am literally like, I for a long time was, but now I love what she's doing. I love what she's doing in music. She is like the bucket list to ever be able to talk to. And it just is, all those people, and I can see a little snippet. Definitely Amy Lee and you and the little bit that I've seen. Like,
mhm.
I see those snippets or even like Lacey, like I can see that. And it's always that's so awesome. You kind of did give us that evolution of that and those different from Pat Benatar to, now we're talking current Courtney Spirit Box, but like
Yeah,
I can absolutely, and I can say the same thing, Pat Benatar. One of my best things was when I did Riot Fest. I got to go to that in Chicago and Joan Jett was like a headliner. And a
yeah,
lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh," like, out of all the names there, right? Like, "Who's gonna go see Joan Jett?" I'm like, "Me." Like, I skipped on, like, these bands that all my friends wanted to see because it's like, I have to see Joan Jett. I will never be able to see her. And literally, when she came out with that black coat and just her presence and her look,
yeah,
I was like, that is what gave me the push to even wanna do anything, although I'm not musically inclined. But, like, to be
yeah,
on this end was, "Hey, you can hang with the boys, you can have that confidence," and she just was that look of confidence and still is, and I adore Joan Jett. So she's so important to me
yeah.
in my life, and those Any of
Mhm.
those, like, singers you listed are so important for us women in anything, whether it's life or music, because,
Mhm.
oh gosh, now I feel like I gotta make a playlist of that because, like, that's so, so
Yeah.
good, so good, and I mean, kinda talking about another female that's out there doing it, Casey Carlson of Deadlands, which you recently got to play with for a second time.
Yeah.
Um, how was that? Because I love what Casey Carlson, I mean, admittedly, I found her on TikTok, like, a year ago, and to see what Deadlands is doing now. For you, like, how did you guys get on those shows with them, and how has she kind of inspired you in a little bit, if she has at all?
Um, oh my gosh. So like I don't even know where to start with this one. So like
Yeah.
my first glimpses of her were also on TikTok. And
Mhm.
it was her doing all of those like like one take covers. And
Yes.
I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun and unique
Yeah.
and I love this." And I never put two and two together when the original like tour was announced, and we saw through one of the local like promoters like, hey, we're looking for opening bands, and this was for the show back in September.
Mhm.
And the band group chat just like kind of like blew up with like, should we just reach out and be like, hey, like we're interested in doing this? And we're
Mhm.
like, okay, the worst that's gonna happen is they're gonna say no,
Right.
so like, just do it, right? And so we did. We took a chance. We reached out, and they're like, "Yeah, you can be on the show." And we're like,
That's
"Okay, like this
Mhm.
is awesome." So it kind of happened like that for the second one, where we saw that it was. I think we might have gotten an email, in all honesty, that this was announced, and but they didn't say anything about like needing locals. We just immediately were like, tell them like we want to play this show, like we
Mhm.
want to be the local opener again. And within like no joke, like 15 minutes, they emailed us back. We're like, yeah, you're in for this. So like we were just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like
Yeah.
it's just in the span of like less than 6 months, and we get to play with this and just absolutely incredible band. And so that's kind of like the story of getting on those shows. We literally just asked
Yeah.
and put ourselves out there and said, hey, we want to do this. So I hope that was, a good thing. We show initiative.
Yeah. No, I feel like that everybody talks about that, like, you don't take those chances you don't take, right? Like, the worst you can
Yeah.
do is get a no or a no response, but you got, like, that amazing response that, I mean, like you said, like, was so incredible, and,
Hmm.
what they're doing right now is just
Hmm.
it's so awesome. Like, I think that, like, to
Hmm.
be on stage with a band like that, I mean, obviously, I don't play music, but if early on,
Hmm.
whether what you're learning from them or you just enjoy them or like to
Hmm.
have their fans take in you, that had to be so
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It really was. And like we were not expecting, I guess, like the amount of support we were going to get from that, which is really, really awesome. That the first one back in September that we played, I remember I was after we had done like our sound check, and our drummer had like walked outside like to her car, and she came back in, and her face just was like just was like wide-eyed, like
Mhm.
mouth agape, and she was like, there's a line down the block of people waiting to get in. We're like, what? So we all like ran out, and we're like, holy crap, like this
Yeah.
is incredible. And that was at that time the largest crowd we had played in front of. And that was all thanks to the Deadlands and the other band that was on that original show. I mean, we brought out a little bit of our crew as well, but it was nothing compared to the totality of like who was there. It was incredible. So
Wow, and I mean, it's like, I gotta know too, I mean, because like, she seems like her one takes, Casey Carlson, is she as cool in person as she seems online? Like, is she who she is and just that kind of I don't know, I think she has that fierceness about her. I'm like, if I saw her in the street, I'd be a little intimidated, but, like,
yeah.
is she as cool as she seems? I don't even know if she wants to seem cool, like, she's just herself, it seems, but is she that person live and in around you and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, 10 out of 10. So like behind the scenes, really just like down to earth and
Yeah.
kind of like like straightforward, but also like very, very friendly, very personable. And I think that reflects like in her stage presence as well. Yeah, so like you're getting all of her on
Yeah.
social media. Like that's just like who she is.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh, they're on my list to see because they've come near me, but more
Hmm.
so like in like more north in New Jersey, where I'm like, oh, it'll
Okay.
be on a night where I can't go, and I'm like, I'm waiting. Just come a
Mhm.
little bit closer. Like, give me that 40-ish minutes,
Yeah.
and I'll be there. I want to go check them out. And I know Justine, you're gonna touch a little bit on something that kind of goes along with that.
As a female in hard rock music, what are the struggles or misconceptions that you face?
I don't, I don't, I'm not speaking on this from like a local music perspective, but just kind of like like from a general perspective, I think something that's hard to sit with and kind of navigate is the like over sexualization of females in music. Because like that's just not like that's just not our vibe. That's like not our direction. And I think that's a fine line in the scene in general, the kind of like rock music scene in general that bands are really like teetering on right now. Like, how are you trying to promote yourself? Um, and this is not me like hating on any specific band. Let me just point
Yeah.
that out. But there are like certain bands where they do rely on the sexualization of their female members.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so I think that's just trying to navigate that right now and like finding other platforms to like rest the band on right now.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I can see some of those bands nowadays that do that. And I
Mhm.
like to think that we've changed a little bit, but even me, like we'll go through things too, right? Like
Mhm.
whether we do a pitch to a guest and a friend of mine that has a male all male podcast, I'll see them go on them and I'm like, but what's the difference? And you don't want to think
Mhm.
that it's because we're 2 girls doing it, but even that on that front, I see, like I'm like, "Man, when I started this, like, 10 years ago and, like, just interviewing bands or doing this and that, I would have thought by now in 2024 it would have changed." It has, but it still hasn't.
Mhm.
So I can't imagine what you go through in whether it's in the community or on a bigger level, playing music or just putting yourself out there, right, on the internet. There's always gonna be that keyboard warrior that's gonna have something to say. So, what do you think we have to do whether it's locally or just in general, to create a safer space for women in whether they play in music or they go to shows or they just want to be a part of that community.
I think it just comes down to respect, honestly. Like, we are all in this room because we have a common interest right now. And we want that to be like a uniting thing for us,
Mhm.
right? We don't want it to be like we don't want to walk into the scene and like feel like we're isolated just because we're not part of the majority, right? Although I will say that I am seeing a lot more diversity in the local scene, which I think
Good.
is freaking incredible right now, just kind of like as a side rant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just like as a female that goes to shows, as a female that performs, yeah, we just want respect.
Uh, couldn't. I mean, I think that's perfectly just to put it for anyone listening or just anyone involved is that that's all we want. Like, is that respect and that, hey, or maybe not asked, if we're wearing a band t-shirt, to name songs. That would be nice in this
Mhm.
new year.
Yeah.
Oh my
That would be
Oh,
God.
yeah.
really great. Like, that would be a really awesome thing. I'll never forget when we were doing a Slipknot episode because I love Corey Taylor. I love
Mhm.
and he's such a mental health advocate, and when we put it out over the summer, one of the first things was like, "You're a poser podcast," and I'm like, "Dude, alright, first of all, I need to put that on a shirt somewhere, but second of all, like,
Mhm.
no, like, you can be a woman and like anything or a girl and just
Yeah,
like what you like because it resonates with you or you're
yeah.
into it." So, like, we just want that respect, that same respect of like, "Hey, I'm wearing a Slipknot shirt, like, I like them." Like,
Mhm.
come on, there's space for all of us, and, like, maybe you'll find
Mhm.
out we can all be friends, it's all cool.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think anyone listening, just give everybody respect. That would be really nice for this year. Like, let's just do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Again, just kind of like tying to something I said earlier, just like
yeah.
part of what we're trying to do in the local music scene is like create create that community, right? So like don't mess that up.
Hmm.
Like don't mess that up. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I'll say like I've met a lot of great people that have given that respect. And those are the people that I'm like remembering and like it's like they have my back. Like if I was not in the room, they would have my back. And that's what it's all about, that community. And I
What is something you are most proud of accomplishing with the band so far this year? And we know it's been a year since your debut performance, but
Mhm.
what have you learned since then?
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Um, what have we learned since then? We've definitely learned more about how the band functions as a whole, and about the individual things that each of us as a member like can bring to the band that just makes us that much better. So and we're kind of on our like next iteration of like what the band is going for and what we're trying to do musically. So I think all of the stuff that we have been able to bring, that we've all learned from each other over the last year has been really beneficial to like where we're trying to go. So yeah, I think just the biggest thing that we learned is how to work together and how to perform together in a way that's going to be healthy, but also challenge us in like in positive ways that are going to lead to like a lot of growth.
I love that.
No, that's so important is I would assume like when you're in a band is working together and that idea. And again, I can't wait to see where you guys are at. I'm going to be following and just to see what comes because I just think that your band is just again such a unique something I haven't heard in a while on the local front, and maybe it's just where I'm around right now is a lot of pop punk or indie, and that's
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. Like I like that too. But to hear something different, because even when your husband was like, he was like, they're a little different than you had on, but check them out.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, but that's a good thing. That's what we want with this podcast. We want to lift up those bands that are different. So it was again I know it sounds repetitive, but I am really excited to see where a band like you goes and what comes of it. Because it just anytime I see something unique, it's like I'm there. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and obviously our podcast deals with the importance of music and mental health, and I know you deal with it in your field. And for you, how important is mental health awareness to you, whether it's in your life, in your field, and what you've seen?
Oh my gosh. If I said anything other than extremely important, I would be
Mhm.
wrong. So yes, I mean,
Yes.
mental health awareness is super important. I wouldn't have a job
Mhm.
if the need for mental health awareness what didn't exist. Um, so as some like as someone who works in the field, I want everyone to be living their best lives, to put it simply. And I think
Yeah.
therapy can be a really good way to help facilitate that process. So I mean, I'm going to be a huge advocate for that, whatever that needs to look like for a person. Um, in my personal life, mental health awareness and like my overall like wellness is like
Mm.
super important, right? I can't function unless like all of the areas of my life are also functioning well.
Mhm.
And if, something is feeling like off balance, like, well, that's going to skew the way these other things feel. So, um, I try to keep like a nice like equilibrium in my life between whether it's like my mental health, my emotional well-being, my relationships, my
Yeah.
friendships, things like that. Just try to keep everything in a really nice balance, so I can, yeah, maintain that equilibrium.
Yeah, and I mean, have there been any artist or any or how is music really maybe when you were in a mental health rut, has music at all served a purpose and gotten you out of any of those ruts at all?
on the regular, I use music to help get me through things. I think that was really my first like emotional experience with music was like those preteen years where like I really started understanding my feelings for the first time and like what they meant for me, but I didn't know how to process them on my own. And not to sound like silly, but like music was there for me for that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a song or an album that was able to like describe the way I was feeling in various moments and at various points in my life. And so I've always had that like deeper like emotional connection to music because of that, because of those early experiences of like using music to really help process what I was going through.
Yeah, it's almost like I know Mike from Heading North was saying last week, or the week before, whenever I can't remember when we had them on, but for anyone listening, the episode was last week. But he was talking about how Origami Angel was almost like a friend. It was like that warm hug. And I think he
Mhm.
put it so perfectly. And it sounds a lot like you've kind of experienced a little bit too, where music is that comfort. And maybe when people aren't around you to help you out, you put on a CD or a record.
Yeah.
Well, those are the same thing. Whatever. Don't kill me, people. Like, but you put on that artist, and they're there for you, and they're your friend.
Yeah.
It is like I can relate so much, and I know, Justine, I had to ask that. I
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
ask specifically, so I'm sorry. I know I skipped ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Uh, something we also like to ask every guest is what tools help you to aid your mental health? You never know who's out there who is struggling that could just use some new method that they're not aware of to help them cope.
I have like all the things in my brain. I'm just like trying to figure out like which one do I pick? Which one
Right.
do I share with the world? Um, so if I have two things.
Yeah.
One, keeping it music theme. One thing that I like to do um when I am trying to process stress, for example. I love making like Spotify playlists just for myself to like capture what I'm feeling. And I'll have like 10 songs on it, for example, and I'll name it something like really like wacky. So being able to use music in that way to help, yeah, help like that just kind of like natural like curiosities of my emotions, and then to help like process and like tell a story about how I'm feeling. um there's another one, so there's an app that I like, and this is a really good one for learning about emotions as well. It's called How We Feel, and the icon's like a little like rainbow heart, I think. It's something along those lines, like a little rainbow heart. But basically, it teaches you how to identify and express your emotions based on like the energy you experience with that emotion. So there are like high and low energy emotions, and then there are like the positive and negative energy emotions as well. So it helps you categorize your emotion based on how it feels and how it presents for you. And then like you can like log your emotions, and like it'll show you statistics if you log like enough like within like a 2 week period of like I don't know, different like patterns that you might be able to catch. Like, oh, am I feeling this particular set of emotions like early in the day, like after I wake up? Like, oh, what I wonder what that means for me. And it can be a really good tool to like take back to therapy with you if you do choose to go that route. But it's a good way to just check in with ourselves, learn more about how things feel for us, and then possibly it could be a really good like therapeutic tool as well.
I
Oh,
suffer from alexithymia a lot as an autistic,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people deal with that where you're not sure exactly what you're feeling or why, and like why, what intensity that it's like that. So I think that could be like a really helpful app for not just autistics, but like people who are ADHD even. Like
Yeah.
I've never heard of that app before, and I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
So like I I primarily serve neurodivergent populations in the work that I do, and I know that this app is like really popular with that population of clients. So high key suggest checking it out. And yeah, and seeing all the awesome things it has on there.
Yeah, I'm
I
getting
love
it
that.
now. I got it now. You were right
Yeah,
with
I
the
was gonna say, I'm
rainbow.
gonna
There's a heart.
Yay!
get
I'm like,
into
while
that, yeah.
she's talking about it, let me make sure I get it because I'll forget. Um, because yeah, that sounds so great. And I think anyone listening to that, like, because I've never heard of that app. I know Justine,
Yeah.
you haven't.
I had not heard of it. It hasn't
Me
come over my radar yet.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, I always highly suggest therapy if that's for you. Um,
Mhm.
I'm starting the process to get into a new therapist and get into that myself, and it's like but again, like, something as simple as an app, like, how great would that be at your fingertips to use that, and I can't wait to check out that app later. I'm, like, gonna I already got it
Mhm.
downloaded on the phone, it's ready to go, but, thank you for sharing that because again, like, that's something
Yeah.
brand new that I don't think anybody maybe was aware of either. So I'll definitely have the link to it too, like the app. I'll figure it out what to do with that. But oh, that's so awesome because I know Justine and I are always looking for new things. That's like why we love to ask about the tools because you never know. Like we had, someone say collaging, someone say running, someone say reading. And it's like, it's so interesting because everybody has their own way to deal and we're all
Mhm.
trying to deal with something. So this is so great. But I gotta ask because we're in 2024 now. We're in the new year. For your band, what do you want to see this year? What do we want to manifest here? And any big plans you can maybe talk about that we don't know.
We are heavy into the like writing and recording stages right now for new music. Like I can't give like too much away,
Mhm.
but we are rebranding's like the wrong word, but we are shifting our focus in terms of what we are writing. Um, so I will leave it at that and let your imagination just kind of
There
like
we go.
sparkle sitting with what that's going to be. Um, so we are working on trying to get some new music out this year. As well as maybe some potential bigger shows, maybe perhaps our first headlining show. So if that is within the universe for us this year, that will probably be towards the end of the year, but still something that we are trying to manifest for ourselves. Um, and so far in the pipeline, we do have a show coming up next month. So that is what we are working on now, is what our set list is going to look like for that, and getting prepared to play a local show with some good friends of ours.
Awesome. Oh, again, everyone's just gonna have to go to the link I put up and like go follow for those in question and see what's gonna happen because that
Mhm.
sounds so exciting. And I guess if someone wants to find you guys, I mean, obviously I'll have the links, but sometimes people just like to listen.
Yeah.
Where can people find you guys and head and find you guys? I know obviously Instagram,
We are
but
absolutely on Instagram, yeah.
yeah.
So we're on a couple of the socials, Instagram, Facebook. We do have a TikTok that we just started using, so we are in the process of making more content there and being a little more active on that platform as well. If you want to listen, you can find us on your streaming platform of your choice. Spotify, I believe we're on Apple Music as well. Um, I'm blanking on some of the
Yeah.
other places, but yeah, those couple of main places. So yeah, on the main socials, on most streaming platforms. Check us out.
But this has been so awesome, and I appreciate you taking the time. I knew, like, before, like, full disclosure, like, before this, Justine and I both have been having a week, and I was,
Mhm.
like, looking forward to this, and I was like, "Alright." Even before you came in, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be good," and I feel like we both just sort of needed this conversation, so, like,
Yeah.
we thank you because
Of course.
this has been so great, and you've said so many great things, and we related, and I can't wait to put this out. I'll let you
Yay.
know what it is, but again, it was so nice being able to meet you and have you come on, and again, I know for sure we needed this, and I think a lot of people will
Mhm.
too.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll let you get back to your day. But again, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
again, I can't wait to check out your band more. Like, cause like I know Justine, I'll make
Mhm.
sure you have it and you follow them.
Yeah.
Because I know it's up your alley for sure.
Oh,
So, but
definitely.
have a great rest of your day, Katie, and thank you. All right, guys, and that was our conversation with Katie McInnes, vocalist of For Those in Question. Again, we just love this conversation so much, and we appreciate Katie taking the time to talk to us. As always, again, like I said in the beginning, all links are below. Check out Katie. For Those in Question is going to be doing some cool stuff, and I'm excited to see what happens this year and beyond that, and what's going on in Pittsburgh because they're pumping out these amazing local acts. So, again, I think we all just have to take a road trip to Pittsburgh at this point. As for Justine and I, we will be back talking about more records that turn 20. Really excited about this because their list is so long. And I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of bands that um, I loved and I still love. So we're going to talk about those. I know you guys enjoyed the first episode. Thanks for all the love on that one. We will be back next Tuesday. You know it. These episodes go up bright and early. So every Tuesday, these will go up. You guys will hear Justine and I next Tuesday. All right. Bye, guys.